All right, and we are live, or at least I'm live. Today we are starting without Ned. Looks like there are problems have arisen, and he can't get in. So if Ned pops in, then we'll be happy to see him. If not, then we'll just keep going and see what happens. First off, I want to say hello to everybody watching, and sure would love it if you have any questions. Feel free to post them. I'll try to keep an eye on chat just to make sure that I'm staying on top of everything. Um, but with that said, I feel like we have an awful lot to talk about, so let's get to it. Starting out with the news of the new Amazon Fire TV, which just came out today. Let me flip over to that. Here we are, the new Amazon Fire TV. It says it'll be released October 5th, 2015. Um, I don't know. The stats look pretty good. It's I think I haven't been following along very closely in the forum, but it certainly sounds like this is no Nvidia Shield TV, but it is, at least stats wise, a little bit better than the Apple TV coming out. Um, Neither one of them is running with a full power HDMI 2.0 chipset or output, but it can accomplish 4K at 30 frames per second, which is, pretty much all you can really hope for these days, at least as far as I can tell. Let's see. Turn that off. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be able to do 4K, and it looks like it's going to be able to do 30 frames per second, which, at least for the current time, should be all anyone really needs. Obviously, who knows what that means in the future. But 4K 60 frames per second, which is what the NVIDIA Shield TV, Android TV can do, that's more aimed for gaming and sports related activities. For anything below that, then theoretically 4K at 30 frames per second is perfectly fine. With that said, there are a lot of kind of interesting things that this is offering, especially Alexa, which is, if you're not familiar, you can sort of talk. There's a piece of hardware out there right now that Amazon offers, that lets you talk to it, and it can basically, interpret whatever you say and do whatever you want. Evidently, this is now coming to the Fire TVs. I'm not really sure if this is the new Fire TV only, or if it's going to be patched into the old Fire TVs and even maybe the Chrome stick. Or, excuse me, the not the Chrome stick, the Amazon Fire TV stick. But I don't know. It sounds pretty cool. And the real benefit, at least in my opinion, of using Alexa through through one of these set top boxes rather than that always on whatever it is that they've got going on, that always on kind of like speaker that sits in the middle of your living room, is that Alexa is not always listening to you, which maybe, I don't know. Some people say it's not a big deal. Some people say it is. Amazon Echo, that's what it is. I don't know. I I always I change my mind about this all the time. Whether having something always listening to you is freaky or not. Um, I think most people agree that when Google's always listening to you, maybe it is a little freaky, but who can say? Um, the other reason this is kind of interesting, is because there's actually been a post in the forum. Let's see if I can pull that up. Oops. There's been a post in the forum in which a user has successfully. Oh, oh nope, it's not pulling up. Well, it's all right. Anyway, a user successfully gotten Amazon Echo or Alexa or whatever you want to call it, to control Cody, and he's got a video demonstrating that, which, I don't know. We'll show in the I don't know. We'll show somewhere. Um, but it's under hardware, and then there's a video Amazon Echo controlling Kodi. There's a series of videos explaining how he did it, plus a step-by-step guide. So who knows exactly what that means for the future, but it would be pretty cool to be able to control Kodi using your voice, either from whatever your Alexa or Amazon Echo pedestal. We'll call it a pedestal. From that pedestal onto your TV, or just using your remote from the Amazon Fire TV. Either way, it would be really cool. It's really cool sounding stuff. So I'm pretty pumped about it. I don't, as you guys know, we're a little irritated with Amazon for having decided to cut us from the store. But there's no denying that they make some pretty cool stuff. And at least I'm personally still an Amazon Prime customer, because Amazon Prime is the best thing on the planet. Shipping wise. I don't know, and I'd be curious to hear whatever other people have to say about this, but I don't personally use Amazon Prime for their video services very much. So if you do, feel free to say so in the comments, and really, that's something I'd be interesting to find out about. I'm not in any way an Amazon Prime video user, and the whole reason I have Prime status is because I buy a lot of stuff from them, shipping-wise. So if you are the opposite, if you tend to watch videos and you almost never get shipping from Amazon, I'd love to hear from you, because it seems like, at least in my experience, that's just not the way people go about it. So that's the Amazon Prime, and that brings up an interesting point, a discussion that a lot of people seem to want us to have, which is, last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago, I made the crazy point that the Amazon Fire TV was out of date. Like, it was already out of the conversation. And one of our first episodes, I talked about how it was like the conversation. It was the number one thing you want to buy right now. And that seemed like, holy cow, not even a year had passed. Maybe not even half a year at that point had passed. So how is it that everything's marching forward so quickly? And if it is marching forward so quickly, what does that mean for the future? And so I wanted to kind of talk about that. And I would like to have Ned around to have this conversation, because he might have a differing viewpoint. But maybe we can let him talk about his opinion next week. My opinion is pretty simple. I think that if the goal is to consider what's going to happen in the next 5 years, as opposed to, the next year or two, it's useful to look back and see what happened 5 years ago. And 5 years ago, we were in just an entirely different world altogether. Kodi didn't exist, obviously. It was XBMC at that time. And shoot, I wonder if... I can't remember how long ago. I think it was 2000. I don't think it was even 5 years ago that we announced that we were first supporting the the Apple TV. Which means that... Yeah, I'm not going to be able to find it. That's unfortunate. I should have looked it up beforehand. But it's been so long since we announced the Apple TV that it's hard to realize just how much time has passed in that really, frankly, very brief period of time. The first time I visited Scale, so that was around 2010 or 11, there was no such thing as showing off the Apple TV. There was, at the time, we had to use a computer, and the NVIDIA Ion, if you remember, was sort of a big deal. And even that was like, this is an amazing idea. The NVIDIA Ion allows us to have Kodi running on an actual little box. I mean, it wasn't even little, but it was littler than we were used to. Everyone at the time had to have a giant HTPC or at the very minimum an old Xbox. So the idea of being able to run it on an NVIDIA NVIDIA Ion device was kind of amazing. So skip forward just a little bit. Man, I'm trying to scroll scroll back a little bit just to get to you, just get there as far back as possible. If anyone knows when we announced the Apple TV, feel free to mention it in the comments. But so we start back all the way around 2010, which is about 5 years ago. And we were mostly dealing with massive computers that were gaming PCs, and we were dealing with all kinds of giant hardware that was loud. Even the NVIDIA Ions of the time were often really, really loud. There was an Acer something or other that was kind of amazing because it wasn't loud. It didn't have a big crazy fan. There were Zotac boxes, which was what we showed off at scale that year, and those were fine in a convention, but they were super loud, so they weren't great for a home theater. So we started out with those old PCs back then, and in the ensuing 5 years, we went from having old PCs that could just barely get by with 1080p, and if it was in software, then could just barely get by in 720p, to now devices that are, I don't know, that are amazingly small. I mean, anything from the Raspberry Pi, which is tiny, to the NVIDIA Shield, which is gigantic, to the Amazon Fire Stick, which I do have one of those sitting around. Yeah, which is just this guy right here. I mean, we went from having to use a giant PC to this little stick in less than 5 years, which is astonishing. Which means that if we're really looking for a guess as to what we're going to have 5 years from now, it's very difficult to say. There was a comment made last week, or whenever the iPad 4 came out, or the iPad Pro, definitely the iPad Pro, where they were saying that the A9X, the CPU, the ARM-based CPU of the A9X, is equally as powerful, or even more powerful, arguably, than a similar generation, last year's generation, Core i3 processor. Which means that since ARM came about, which once again was a little over 5 years ago now, this was like 2008 when it started really being a thing, it started out being just a really, it was nice, inexpensive way to run a mobile device, but there was no one on the planet who was arguing that ARM was as fast as an Intel processor, as anything, x86 or x64. So the fact that evidently we now have an ARM processor that is competitive with Intel products means that I honestly don't know. 5 years from now, we could have ARM processors in everything, or we could have Intel products that are just absurdly fast. But how do I explain it? It goes like this. 5 years ago, XBMC at the time needed a gigantic PC to run. And these days, it runs on a little stick. And it runs perfectly fine on this little stick. And at no point in the future do we plan on making Kodi, which is what it is now, we're not planning on making it more resource intensive. There's no planned obsolescence like you get with iOS, which means that the hardware of today that can run it fine is always going to be the hardware that can run it fine. Any more advanced hardware really just means you're going to get a more advanced video player or a more advanced, I don't know, whatever cool new feature that you're looking for in the future, but it won't start working less well, if that makes sense. So that means that 5 years from now, if you can run this on a chip like this, you should be able to run it, and this is sort of where I'm going, on a TV. And I think that's where it's going. I think that we've sort of reached the threshold at this point, and you can sort of see that with the current generation of Sony Bravias that are Android TVs. We've sort of reached the threshold where now you can run pretty much everything on an ARM processor inside a TV, and you never have to worry about that software going out of date. You never have to worry about it becoming obsolescent or obsolete, which is astonishing. And it means that the only thing you have to worry about from iteration to iteration is whether the TV you're using can play the latest and greatest video format, which is not related to the software at all. And that means that, and this is the final conclusion I have, 5 years from now, we just won't need set-top boxes. At least not for Kodi. We won't need set-top boxes for anything that's not very, very much gaming based, or I don't know, or based on something that's not based on a TV in the first place. So today, so in 5 years from now, at least in my opinion, this is once again futurism at work. So I'm going to look back at this in 5 years and be really embarrassed about it. My guess is that what we're going to have is we're going to have TVs that have all of the hardware that you need for media consumption. And that's just, if you're only in for the media consumption, then that's just where you'll go for it. This year's set of TVs, if you go to our forums, you'll find out in theory, the chipsets and sides can do the job, but it's still a work in progress. Definitely. But that's this year. 5 years ago, once again, remember, we just had barely shifted over the Apple TV 2, if we even had. Once again, sorry, I can't find the original post where we announced that we were available for it. Oh, here it is. You asked for it, XBMC for Apple TV 2. So that was January 20th, 2011, which means that was only 4 years ago that we announced for the Apple TV 2. So, in a mere 4 years, we went from only one single device being able to run it, and that being able to run it at 720 on an ARM processor, to now El Cheapo, super ridiculous cheap devices being able to run on a Fire TV stick or on a Raspberry Pi. Where's my Raspberry Pi? Well, I can't find it, but on a Raspberry Pi, and that's just right now. That's 4 years from when we first made the leap over to ARM-based hardware for media center stuff. 5 years from now, I can't imagine even needing this stick. Like, there just won't be a point. As far as I can tell, everything's going to have to go into a TV, because at that point, all you'll really need is a software update to make the TV work better. And the only reason you might upgrade hardware is not to improve the software, but to improve the fidelity of the TV. Maybe you want glasses-free 3D TV in 2020, or you want, I don't know, 8K or 11K or whatever, whatever kind of TV you're interested in. It'll happen because you want the TV itself to be better, not the hardware behind the TV. So that's my guess. That's where I'm guessing everything's going. Either to that or to situations where you'll need a console, you'll need actual hardware, because for gaming purposes, you still need that hardware to really push the envelope. The other exception to this idea is probably in VR and definitely in AR, where, first of all, there's no way we can shrink this amount of power into a set of glasses in 5 years. Maybe we can. Once again, I didn't think we could do all we've done so far in 4 years. 4 years, excuse me. But even if we can, I think that there'll still be a push to always have better VR and better AR. And I think that's sort of the next big leap forward. And I could be wrong, but I think that's the next big leap forward. And as long as that's the next big leap forward, then, man, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Like, it could be that these things will become obsolete, and we'll once again go back to having just media-centric TVs and big Goliath honking HTPCs that are specifically built for AR and VR, or consoles at the very least that are designed for gaming, and everything else in between will just go away. That's That's mostly what my guess is. It'll all just go away. There will ultimately be no reason to have one of these anymore. And that's all in 5 years. For now, these are great. All set-top boxes that are, these cool little boxes are pretty fantastic. But it's destined to eventually end. That's my guess. So that's my little segue into the world of the future in 2020. Feel free to leave a comment down below explaining to me how much of an idiot I am. Or, once again, feel free to comment in the comments right now, because I'd love to hear something. Yeah, Min points out that there's no denying that Cody made the Fire TV as popular as it is. Maybe. I hope so. That would be cool. It's hard to say. I think it probably dates back a bit more than that, actually. I think 2011, when we announced that we were available on the Apple TV, it was sort of a big turning point, because the Apple TV was the first device, and I wrote this in a blog post somewhere. The Apple TV was the first device that could run Kodi for less than $100 since 2008, maybe, when you could buy an old Xbox and rip it up and mod it. And back then it was under $100. But that was the first device that had done that. And the fact that you could run XBMC at the time on an Apple TV arguably made it one of the most important devices that had come out in who knows how long. At least for us, for XBMC and for Kodi later. And it kind of swept in all of the devices that came in after it. I don't know. Sorry. This stuff is very fascinating to me, the past and the future, and how it all plays out. So I tend to ramble about it. So let's move on, because I don't want to bore you guys. So there are a few other things I want to talk about. The first one being evidently one of the big selling points for all of these set-top boxes on eBay that are selling our name for piracy purposes. One of the big selling points that they all have in common is that for some reason people in the UK love selling them and love buying them, which means that a big selling point of theirs is that you can get Premier League access through these devices. And a person, shoot, I have the forum thread closed, I think. But a person has pointed out that there's really, if you really do want to watch these shows and you want to watch it in a legal way, which is to say you want to watch it in a way where you're actually rewarding the people who are, rewarding the people who are putting on this content, then there are two add-ons that you can actually use to watch them perfectly legally. The first one is called NBC Sports Live, and the second one is Premier League Pass. And I don't have either one installed at the moment, so I can't show it off to you. But my understanding is that both of them work, and they both sometimes may depend on a VPN, but at the very least you can definitely actually pay for content, and actually be a member of an active member supporting your team, and at the same time keep watching using Kodi or whatever else you want. You can do it for free still. You can go the pirated route, but I don't know, guys. I'm a big fan of rewarding those sports teams that I like. I mean, it's the whole reason why if you use Kodi, we love it when you buy our T-shirts, because it's not necessarily that you want to wear a Kodi T-shirt all the time. It's that you want to kind of reward the organization for doing what they do. I feel the same way about sports. It's why I have an MLB, that's Major League Baseball pass every year, even though I don't need it, and I certainly probably shouldn't be affording it, but I do anyway because I want to support the team. They don't always want me to support them that way, since I have to use a VPN to actually watch my team, but I'm not going to worry about it. So if you do want to watch Premier League sports, absolutely feel free to check those add-ons out. They're also in the forum. I'll try to add a link to both of them below, too, once we get done. Next, I'll leave this next thing for next week. People keep saying they want Ned's hat. We'll have to get back to that. I also want Ned's hat. It's a Kodi hat, for those of you who don't know. Absolutely want it. And it's great. So we'll see if we can't figure that out at some point. Next, if you haven't seen in the how-to videos on KordKutters, by the way, feel free to subscribe. I posted a video last night on how to set up 30-second skipping in Kodi, and I want to show that now. Actually, it's really simple to get it set up. All you have to do is go to System. Oh, this might not actually. Okay, it's very possible that this won't. Oh yeah, it does have it. Okay, so you go to System. I'll do that again just so you can see. System, Video, Playback, and make sure your settings level is set to Advanced. And then you can actually adjust how many skip steps you include. And so all you have to do to make it perfectly exactly like how it used to be is switch it over to 30, just like that. Turn off all these. Click OK. And then I didn't do this in the video because I still like having a little pause between when I click. But you can actually drop the skip delay back down to none, and that will get it exactly like how it used to be. So, in my opinion, this is awesome because in the past, what I typically ended up doing was I'd have a skip forward 30 seconds and then a skip back 10 seconds. And this way I could skip through commercials and things like that, and then or skip through the opening credits of a TV show and then skip back once I had gone too far. So you can use these skip steps however you want, and that's an awesome way to use it. Do the 10-second skip back and then the 30-second skip back. Though if you want to do that, if you want to have a 10 and a 30, you do need to adjust that skip delay back up, because I don't think you can have no skip delay and then actually do incremental skip steps. But that's all personal preference. So that's how you do that. I do have a couple comments now, so I'd love to talk about them. Aragon Goner. Aragon, by the way, great book. I haven't read the third one, so always feel free to spoil it. It's been like 10 years. I have Prime only for shipping also. I'm hoping that the new Fire TV box, I'll start using Prime Video as well. So you're going to buy the new Fire TV box. That's cool. Feel free to comment whenever it comes out and let us know how it goes, or mention it in the forum. Yeah, like I said, I have a Fire TV stick, and my mom actually I set it up on her TV, and she still uses it to this day, and it's really pretty great. I mean, it is a little frustrating finding Prime videos that are free, that are actually part of Prime instead of having to pay for them. That's a little frustrating because they don't really do a good job of separating out what's free and what's not free. But otherwise, it's really pretty cool. I'm still angry at them because we can't easily get on that system without having to do a side loading thing. But beyond that, it's pretty great. TVs already have enough processing. This is Deaf Boy to run Kodi as a front end, but the torrent client, Couch Potato, Sick Rage, whatever, can be pretty resource intensive. That's a good point. If you're a person who uses Kodi not just for a front end, but for all of your back end server type stuff, this guy does torrenting. But even if you do it, legally, like if you use it for back end Blu-ray ripping or whatever you're going to do, then a TV obviously isn't enough. And that's a good point. But remember, we're talking about 5 years from now, and arguably, hopefully, crossing all our fingers, by that point we should have Kodi set up in such a way that it can act as a headless server. And so you can have a system running in the background, somewhere in your basement or somewhere, that does all that server stuff that you still need to get done. And then all of the front end Kodi operations can happen directly on the TV. So there's no real reason to rely on the TV for that. Plus, nobody wants to leave their TV running all the time so they can do all that back end server stuff. So there is obviously at some point probably going to need to be a decoupling. If Kodi does become sort of more of a TV only sort of thing, and that's I mean, props to Plex for having figured that out a long time ago. The separation of the server and the client. We don't really like going down that route because while Plex got it right that decoupling those things is a great idea in certain situations, in other situations it's really really not. And in that instance, then that it kind of breaks things up. So I don't know. The most obvious example of that, especially these days, is something like the Alienware Alpha, where if we had decoupled all those things, then we wouldn't have a really cool front end, not just for videos, but for whatever you wanted, gaming in particular, and launching other applications. Um, but yeah, you're absolutely right, Def Boy. If it does come to the point where Kodi is primarily used directly on a TV, you're going to have a server backend to make all that work. Okay, next thing. Yeah, Def Boy was going to mention Plex. Yeah, well, there you go. Good buddy. Next thing. Oh, the next thing is the last thing. We'll try to keep it shorter than the 45 minutes that we normally do. So I want your guys' opinions. I've been talking about actually playing games, live, doing that whole game player thing that YouTube people seem to do. I watch that sort of stuff a lot. I'm a big fan of like Rooster Teeth and Funhouse and groups like that do it, where they watch they play it and you watch them and you watch it more for the commentary. So I actually got a bunch of different games, in particular DuckTales, which I'm very excited about. Deja Vu, which is a great game from my childhood, and Final Fantasy, the original one. And I wanted your opinion on whether I should go ahead and start doing live gaming, like maybe in the evenings or something, and then presenting them maybe with edits the next day. If you're interested in watching some of that, and the reason I'm doing this would mostly be to just show off how RetroPlayer works, and at the same time, I think it's fun to do, so I think it'd be a good time. So if you're interested in watching me do that, let me know in the comments. If not, I'm probably still going to do it, so just don't watch those videos. And I apologize ahead of time for not being very good at it. John Robertson says, Plex delay in playing is too long compared to Kodi. That's right, John Robertson. You tell those Plex guys, I guess. Darn. Okay, and I think that's it. We talked about pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. Next week, I think we're going to have Ned talk about his hat. And it's getting pretty close, guys. It's September 17th right now. DevCon is October 12th or something like that. It's 10th and 11th. And 9th, 10th, and 11th. And I think we're going to show up on the 8th, which means we're probably going to have our first live KordKutters episode that week, where Ned and I will actually be in the same room talking to you guys. So get ready for that. I don't know if we'll do anything special other than being in the same room in some hotel in Prague. But aside from that, get ready and we'll see what we can come up with to make that a little bit more entertaining for you. In the meantime, I think that should do it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Feel free, once again, in the comments to let me know if you think I'm on base or if I'm completely idiotic with what I think's going to happen 10 years from now. 5 years from now in 2020. Thanks for watching. See you later.